Welcome to the series on Reflections from Pharmacy Leaders Advancing the Profession. This is going to feel a little awkward because I will reflect on the questions from the interview for the interview. It's a little awkward, but I've been encouraged to record my reflections as well as folks have indicated that I have helped to advance the profession. So let me begin with, this is Dr. Terry Poirier, who is professor and senior scholar at Southern Illinois University Edwardsville School of Pharmacy. Dr. Poirier is recognized as a leader in pharmacy education. She was the founding associate dean at SIUE. Previously, she served as professor and director of lifelong learning at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. She served as chair of the section of pharmacy practice for AACP. She also founded the local chapter and served as president of the Three Rivers College of Clinical Pharmacy. She is recognized by AACP as a distinguished teaching scholar. Recently, SIUE recognized her with a Paul Simon Teacher Scholar Award. So the first question has to do with reflecting on my journey to my career, to my position, including key events and persons in that influenced me in that journey. First of all, I'm going to go back to when I was 14 years of age. At that time, I was afflicted with a chronic disease that required chronic medications for life. And because of that, I was able to interact with a local women pharmacist in our town. And she influenced me in terms of my interest in pursuing pharmacy as a career. I also want to acknowledge the support of my family and my sister that helped me to achieve success in my early training as I was pursuing the pharmacy degree. I did earn the Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy at Albany College of Pharmacy in the mid-70s. And then I pursued a PharmD and residency at the University of Michigan. And that was the time when there were very few PharmD programs, and those PharmD programs were relatively small. And the one I pursued was also affiliated with a residency at the University Hospital. After completing that program, I was hired as a clinical faculty at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. And that was important because I was the first full-time clinical faculty hired. And this is what, during the period of time in the late 70s, when there were still capitation monies available to help expand health profession education and training to obviously expand pharmacy school enrollments. Early on in my career, what really helped shape my career was my engagement with numerous professional organizations. I started to be involved with ASHP. And then also, after a few years on faculty, I started to be even more involved with AACP, and then ultimately with ACCP. This external involvement and my networking with colleagues throughout the country was really vital for my growing as an academician and as a clinician. I spent 24 years at Duquesne in Pittsburgh, and I really enjoyed it tremendously there. And significant in my journey there, I was able to achieve success and help develop numerous programs. I was the first clinical faculty and also the first woman at Duquesne to achieve the rank of full professor. And over 40 plus years in my academic career, I was able to develop as a teacher, most of which was self-developed through attendance at conferences, study, networking with folks. So the, the question about key people that influenced me in my journey, I have to say, I never realized that I entered this profession at a time when the clinical movement was just starting in the 70s. But key people, the numerous professional colleagues I interacted with, especially through the organizations like with ASHP, AACP, and ACCP, were extremely vital in my development. And one individual in particular, when I look at my career as a scholar, was Neil Davis from Temple University. He was such a positive encourager. He encouraged me to pursue my research, especially in the areas at the time when we were just introducing computers into our workplace, to pursue the research, the extensive research I did on evaluating various microcomputer softwares. And I published dozens of those studies in the Lippincotts Hospital Pharmacy, which he edited. Another person who was very instrumental in my development was a person by the name of Tom Bach. Tom Bach was the director of pharmacy at St. Francis Medical Center in Pittsburgh, where after a few years of teaching, I changed my clinical site to join the staff of St. Francis Medical Center as director of clinical pharmacy services to help develop clinical programs there. And Tom was such an encourager and supporter because he allowed me to develop numerous innovative pharmacy services, and that was helpful in my abilities to grow. He also taught me to not be afraid, to be direct and say what needs to be said. Often people, what I describe is they spin things, they go in circle, they try to be so politically correct. And Tom was not that. He was very honest. I had the deepest respect for him because there are things that sometimes needed to be said and people were afraid to say. Another person that influenced me in my career was Joseph DePiro. Joseph DePiro actually asked me to join and to chair a task force for journal improvement when he was editor of AJPE. And from that resulted in, I believe, a key paper, the ideas guideline that we generated that helped to really transform and enhance the scholarship of teaching projects. Joe also asked me to serve on the editorial board of AJPE, and that allowed me to really publish commentaries, insightful commentaries for advancing the profession. And again, I was very appreciative of that, and that was significant for me. Now, what do I think will be my legacy? And again, to rephrase that, what am I most proud of in terms of my contributions to the profession? You know, in a 40+ year career, I got to influence thousands of students, and I never counted how many students I taught, but it was over 1,000, maybe over 2,000 students. And the impact I was able to have on student lives and and also my interaction with colleagues through my teaching and research collaborations is probably the most significant impact. I think I touch people's lives in probably in a different way than most people, not just with knowledge and role modeling skills, but also to impress upon them the significance of who you are as a person, the integrity, my walk, my spiritual walk. The other thing that I'm most proud of, and I believe I contributed, is all the various programs I helped to develop at Duquesne University, as it was a new clinical pharmacy program. And in particular, in the later years that I was at Duquesne, I helped develop the non-traditional PharmD programs. And, and I'm really proud that that provided the opportunities for practicing pharmacists to pursue the PharmD in order to advance their careers, and many of which not only went on to do great clinical work, but also even joined schools of pharmacy as faculty and also preceptors. And then another thing that I'm real proud of, feel I contributed to, is when I joined the school at SIUE to help establish this new school of pharmacy. And I think with my colleagues, we really helped to create a culture which was focused on student learning. The other thing at SIUE is the education specialization that I developed, a unique program that prepared pharmacy students to teach and precept students. And I have had over 100 graduates that achieved or earned the education specialization at SIUE. The other thing later in my career at SIUE, I got interested in the health humanities, and I helped to develop a health humanities course that was offered to undergraduate students in the honors program. And also because of that work, I helped to spearhead the creation of an undergraduate minor in health humanities at SIUE. And then, so lots of things I'm proud of and feel that I've contributed in my career. My legacy will probably be that I was a type of person who was persistent, passionate about pharmacy education and the profession, and then recognized as someone who really helped to move the profession, to advance the profession through innovations and vision. What advice I have for students? I have something in my email tagline that I've had for years, and it's a quote by Carl Sandburg that says, "Nothing happens unless first a dream." And that's my advice for students, one of my pieces of advice. Pursue your dreams. Look at how you can help shape your community, the world you live in, and your profession. And part of that also is, don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. It's okay to think differently. It's okay to break the box. And then, of course, most success comes with persistence. You're not going to always be successful. We'll be persistent, and we're here to serve our patients, and of course, to enhance the role of pharmacy. And then it's important that you also get involved with your profession. Most people will say, you know, if you listen to these tapes, you'll hear that people achieve what they did and contributed because they're involved in a professional organization. So get involved. It's never too late to get involved. And then also, not only get involved with your profession, but get involved with your community. It's important to serve in the community you live in, because we're so well trained as pharmacists. Our skills and our perspectives and we all will say, as you give, your returns in terms of that will be much greater than what you put in, not only in terms of your satisfaction, but your growth as a person. And then, of course, continue to be a lifelong learner. You probably get the sense that as I reflect on my career, I wasn't trained in most of the areas that I ended up working in. Over the 40 plus years of my career, I continued to develop in various areas as I saw new opportunities to help make a difference in the world and in our community. So continue to be a lifelong learner. And then finally, I have to say, always remember to keep a balance in your life. That's easier said than done. However, I admonish you to work hard while you're at work. But then when you go home, separate home from work. Important to prioritize uh, things in your life, things, when I say things, people. And then, it's important to have hobbies too. Look for outside interests as well and pursue those as well. And then, of course, it's extremely important to maintain a balanced spiritual life. So the question about COVID-19, obviously COVID-19 will be an event that we will look at as we study history, and it will reflect that it was a turning point or a key event in our profession that shaped our profession. As an optimist, I've actually not been overwhelmed with the COVID-19 pandemic. I actually see it as in many respects, where there are lots of silver linings to this pandemic. Uh, as mentioned by others, um, I think it's going to be a turning point. There's no question. We're seeing the development and increased comfort with providing telehealth. Uh, and, as we look at that, that's really an opportunity for our profession. It's very possible, because with changing reimbursement, as people start recognizing the value of telehealth and people become comfortable with providing healthcare via telehealth, that we as pharmacists, especially in community pharmacy settings, we may get real creative. Hopefully we'll be real creative, and we'll start developing more programs, more medication management programs as community pharmacists, because we're more comfortable with providing those services via telehealth. And as the insurance companies start recognizing the value of this and start saying we're going to reimburse for this, this is a great opportunity for us. And hopefully that's what history will say, that that was where our profession started to be involved more in telehealth, and we were starting to see community pharmacists more involved in medication management at the community level, providing services to all those rural communities. Obviously, we're being portrayed as heroes, and we're accessible. And what a better time for us to, adapt our practice settings to really expand to provide care for the needs of patients. And then the other thing that I see with the COVID-19 pandemic, as many of us had to adapt our courses to teaching online, I think that's going to be a stimulus for the development and the learning about how to provide quality distance education. We're going to become a lot more comfortable with doing that. And I think that will help to also realize that the shift has to be focused on learning outcomes and not so much on seat time. And as we look at developing online education, that will help us to examine new instructional and assessment strategies, which will help shape the redesign of our educational curriculums. So I'm very optimistic that there's many blessings to this pandemic. It's actually given us time to think and to reflect, and to think at how we can improve what we do in the future. So again, it's been my pleasure to personally reflect on these questions. Again, thank you for listening.